All right, now I have the pleasure of introducing you to Deborah Nash. Deborah has been a speaker here before, and I mentioned then, and I will mention it again. She wrote a book called Level Up Your Leadership, Becoming More Conscious, Courageous, and Resilient. I read the foreword or the introduction to her book, and I have never been so captivated by an introduction of a book. It is absolutely the most exciting, exhilarating introduction to a book that I have ever read. And her story is really phenomenal. She's got great content and she shares so many pearls with people. And since she was here in January, her book has won awards. So she got a Gold Stevie Business Book Award winner. She got that award. She got two Goody Business Book Awards, one in mentoring and coaching, and the other one in motivation under the leadership category. And she's been a finalist on the National Indie Excellence Awards. My gosh, it's like unassuming Deborah is killing it in the awards arena. So, Deborah, I am so grateful that you're here again. And her topic is about how to just, not focus on the outcomes. And that's so hard for most of us, whether it's in business, whether it's in goals that we're trying to achieve in life or job search, especially. Attaching to the outcomes is the number one thing that gets people all flustered if things don't go right or focused on the wrong thing. So Deborah's going to help us with that. Deborah, how did you know that this was one of my favorite topics? Because it has so much to do with brain and will and staying present. So I am so glad that you're going to be sharing your insights with us. So I'm handing it over to you.
Thank you so much, Christy, for that introduction. And yes, this is a topic I think it's relevant for all of us, whether we're currently in a job, searching for a job, and then it's really relevant outside of our jobs in life. So I am actually thrilled to be here again, and I'm just going to dive in. So here we go. I'm going to tell you about Steve, who is a client who had done a whole lot of pre-work for an important meeting with an executive committee leader. And he involved other team members in the prep for this 1 hour meeting. They had a really clear, desired outcome. And about halfway through the meeting, Andy, a leader in a different group, raised an issue and redirected the conversation in a way that felt completely unproductive. And from Steve's perspective, it absolutely derailed the meeting. This is an example of one of the frustrations I often hear from leaders. I'm going to ask you a few questions about similar situations. Would you please write, we're going to use the chat. So if you would please write yes in the chat if they're relevant for you. And I really appreciate everybody's participation in chat. You're helping me with some research I'm doing around this topic. So, have you had a meeting that didn't turn out the way you planned, especially when you spent hours prepping and you weren't happy about it? If so, would you put yes in the chat? Okay, I'm definitely seeing yeses. Have you ever asked a person to do something and they said yes, and then they blow you off or ignore you, and you feel really frustrated and angry? Anybody? I got some yeses there. Um, have you, one second, have you ever been upset with someone? It could be at work or home who did do something, but it was not what you wanted or needed. And that created a problem for you and your team or your relationship. It happens in my house all the time, but just checking. So, all right, lots and lots of yeses. So, thank you. This confirms that these are not situations that are just happening to my clients. And if you hold on just a moment, I am going to put up my slides and reorient my screen for a second here. The lovely mechanics of Zoom. There we go. Okay. So there's a common thread here, and that is it wasn't supposed to go this way. So usually we have our plan. We expect it would happen the way we wanted to, and then something else happens, but it's not what I wanted. We might have an internal reaction from that, feel disappointed, frustrated, upset. I might be saying, how could they do this? This is going to set us back weeks. And the impact on me and my team is more work, more burnout, and everybody's complaining. I don't know what to do. And it feels like there are no options or few good options. Have you ever found yourself thinking it was not supposed to go this way? If so, would you put not? Have you thought it was not supposed to go this way? Let's see. Okay, a few of you. Yes. All right. So again, I'm just kind of checking out some theories to see in presentations if these are relevant. So these are not simply frustrating moments. They are actually capacity moments. When something important does not go as we planned it, our ability to think, listen, connect, and choose can actually shrink because when we are attached, oops, there's my capacity moments. When we are attached to how it should be or what it should look like, our capacity shrinks. And there is a shift that you can make. You can acknowledge in the moment something you already know that I cannot control what has happened, but that I can notice my reaction and choose how I respond and what actions I take. I can actually remember that we have more personal agency than we think. Today, we're going to look at two related leadership practices, acceptance and be all in and unattached. Both of these help you expand your capacity to lead. Why am I talking about capacity? Why does it matter now? Well, many of us are noticing at the moment that AI is expanding our capability, our ability to do more, do better, do it faster, right? Every day there's a new prompt opportunity. Can't keep up with them anymore on LinkedIn. I've saved too many. A new way to do something with Claude or chat, new tools, new superpowers. AI can increase capability by helping us research, analyze, draft, synthesize, execute more quickly, more options, more output. And this raises the ceiling of what we and our organization can do and what we're capable of doing. But now the question is, how does this affect our role as leaders? While there are a lot of different answers, one thing that has become more and more clear is we need to expand our capacity to lead. Our capacity to lead. AI can help us do more and do it faster, but we need leadership practices to help us meet the challenges and opportunities more wisely. Let's get clear on the distinctions that at least I'm making for these terms. Capability is about what we can do, our skills, our knowledge, our tools, experience, ability to produce results. Capacity in a leadership context is this idea of what can we hold, what can we discern, and what can we actually lead through. Capacity is what allows us to meet more challenges, more change, and have more bandwidth. But it comes with also having clear boundaries as well as expanding what we can hold. We need to be aware of and able to notice when we're full. I like do this when I'm full. There's no more. Can't take on anymore. But and neither can our team. And ideally we want to notice when we hit a wall. When we hit a wall, a limit, perhaps because there's like too much uncertainty or too much ambiguity, too much complexity, what happens for you? What if you could think of a limit and a wall as important information as a critical signal and not a definitive stop sign, then you're actually on the path to increasing your capacity. In a world where AI, uh, where thanks to AI, capability is accelerating so fast, some of it's positive, some I think we're kind of all questioning, not so much. We want to leverage our human advantage. And this is not about fitting more into an already overloaded day. I'm not talking about working harder, carrying more, or ignoring our limits. In fact, the opposite. But leadership capacity is our ability to meet what's happening with greater presence, clarity, courage, resilience, and humanity. What does it mean for you? One of the most consistent messages in my work has been you have more options than you think you do. And we can see more options when we develop the capacity to stay present long enough to notice these options. And it starts with being able to hold more than you think you can. Can you take a look at this list, please? Do you get stopped or stuck in and when any of these are happening? What if you could hold more of these, more uncertainty, ambiguity? Could you type in chat any one or more of them that you would like to have more capacity to sit with and be able to address? Uncertainty, ambiguity, complexity, challenging emotions, changing expectations, the disappointment, all of them, competing priorities. Yes. Ruminating. Ah, good. That's a good one to add. Yes. So dissonance, another good one. Thank you. So part of the idea of increasing your capacity is how to not get stopped by these things. And then on the other side is can you also hold something positive? Can you be open to holding more possibilities and more hope? What are the benefits of holding more and focusing on capacity? Here are a few areas where increased capacity can help us stay present when things are hard, think clearly when the answer's not obvious. Can you put in the chat the first words of any of these that would be helpful for you at this time? Navigating ambiguity, recovering more quickly from disappointment, setbacks, lead through uncertainty. Okay, all of the above, staying connected, navigate, recover, think clearly. Great. So at least some of these are resonating. Think clearly. New lines of business? Yes. So for almost 30 years as a coach, I've noticed that the leaders who thrive are not necessarily the smartest, nor those who work the longest hours. The ones who thrive have developed capacity to lead. And the practices that I'm sharing today, and all the ones in my book, we'll talk more about my book later, help you build leadership capacity. In January, when I was here, I talked about the importance of reminders and repetition, R&R. Most of what I'm talking about here are things you are aware of. You probably already practice, at least in some areas of your life. And it's the continued practice that matters because the basics matter, just like it does for elite athletes. In January, I introduced two of the three leadership essentials that I believe every leader should master. And they are awareness and curiosity, your ability to notice and explore. I invited you to practice more, to build mastery in awareness and curiosity, to notice your self talk, which is one of our most powerful tools, to recognize when you're in automatic mode rather than awareness mode, and when you're reacting versus responding. I invited you to remember to pause and that what happens or doesn't happen is all information. We're going to look at the third leadership essential, which is acceptance. And that's about meeting reality. So, what happens in your mind and body when I say the word acceptance? Are you noticing any resistance showing up? In January, I talked about the resistance monster as a playful way to deal with resistance. Perhaps you're saying, wait a minute, Deborah. I believe, in fact, I was always told we don't accept things as they are. It's pretty common to think that acceptance means resignation. Why bother? Or giving up. There's nothing I can do. Or lowering our standards. But I am not talking about resignation, giving up, or lowering our standards. You might be thinking acceptance is agreeing or approving something that I don't agree with. While it's not necessarily that, there are times we do need to and have to accept what we don't agree with. A decision by a leader, a spouse, a child. I have a 23-year-old. I have a lot of practice in this lately. Maybe some of you can relate. Here's the question. Can you do that? Can you accept without being resentful, angry, or shutting down? Acceptance Plus is a game-changing leadership essential. Seeing reality clearly enough to respond wisely. Acceptance is the moment we stop arguing with current reality. It's when we take a moment to shift to what is, and now what? And ironically, this idea of acceptance can be hard to accept. If you want to move forward or create change with less struggle and smoother collaboration, try this unconventional idea. Accept things as they are first, and then commit to make changes. The plus is a reminder that acceptance doesn't mean you have to stop. Once you accept where you are, though you might stop or change the path you're on, because acceptance opens the door to exploring what is possible. It's acceptance is not about feeling resigned or passive. It's also not about staying in a situation that is unhealthy for you. It is about meeting the present with clarity, resourcefulness, and courage. I said I would talk about two practices, and the first is expand your capacity through acceptance. Because when you practice acceptance, you tap into a profound freedom to adapt, reimagine, and create. When you can accept what is and then move forward, it transforms how you lead and connect with others. And as a result, you become more courageous and resilient. Okay, pause for a moment, maybe take a breath, and just check in with yourself. How is this idea of acceptance landing so far? Is your inner voice saying any version of these statements? Wait a second. My role is crystal clear. I am here to challenge the status quo, not accept things as they are, especially when they're not working. I've always been told to present solutions and not just problems. And this idea of embracing acceptance, I don't know, it doesn't work for me. It just doesn't feel right. If you're having any thoughts like these, I would be grateful if you could share what you're saying to yourself, any resistance in the chat. Or if you're feeling like, oh, I totally get it, tell me more. Acceptance means recognizing the reality amount around me and choosing how I react. Yes. Thank you, Daria. I'm struggling with accepting. Tell me more. Makes sense so far. Okay. I'm going to assume there's some of both sides here. So, as leaders, aren't I always supposed to be striving for better and more? Yes. That is our job because as leaders, we do want to take what works and we want to make it better. Our job is to identify ways to improve what isn't working optimally. We seek opportunities, we spearhead innovation. That is all true. I am not challenging that. So that's the important piece to get about acceptance. It's not challenging those things, but it is the idea that to excel in these roles, it might feel like accepting the current state is counterproductive. I get it. When I introduce the concept of acceptance to clients, their initial reaction is to resist accepting circumstances as they are. Clients echo the statements I just shared. However, with some additional understanding and ongoing practice, they fully embrace the idea. And I want you to know you already practice acceptance, at least in some or many parts of your life. You definitely don't fight everything, but hang in there with me. Here's some concrete examples of moments where it was helpful for my clients to notice, oh, I'm attached, and then be able to shift to practice acceptance of what is and now what. So let's say you're in your organization, you have stakeholders and they're not cooperating with you, and you and your team are really frustrated and you're complaining about them. That's an example. Or you introduce a process, maybe it's to improve workflow, but nobody is following it. Or a decision you strong, Bill, yes, shaking your head, a decision you strongly disagreed with, and that affects you. And it was made by others, and you're not happy about it. On a personal level, maybe you didn't get that role you really wanted, and you thought it was close. A client or potential employer has gone silent and ghosted you. You feel depleted and can't continue at the current pace, but you feel you have to keep going. Are any of these familiar? In any one of these situations, you might feel disappointment, frustration, sadness, anger. Yes, it's actually important to feel our feelings. That's another practice I recommend and talk about in my book. But if you stay swirling in your feelings, it's easy to believe there's nothing you can do. You might say to yourself, I want this to be different. It should be different. Because what happens is attachment consumes capacity and acceptance creates capacity. Part of accepting current reality is acknowledging and accepting. I may not be able to do what I wanted to do or get what I wanted at the moment. It's acknowledging we don't have control over everything. Think about the weather. We were just talking about it earlier. We want it to be warmer or cooler or sunnier. We know we can't control whether it's going to rain or not, but we can bring an umbrella or a jacket if there's a chance of rain. Similarly, we may not be able to change our staffing resources or our timelines. We may lack the funds to do what we believe is best. We may not succeed in influencing a leader to follow our recommendations, at least not yet. Many times, and here's what's critical, many times you cannot change what's happening, but we can do something even when it seems like we can't. We can always change our attitude. And there are things we can do. We can shake up the circumstances because we can't access and we can't see options yet because our brains are flooded. Those times that we're stuck and we believe there's nothing to do, one of the best things that we can do is release, let go of attachment to how we expected it to be. Because when you accept how things are, your mind no longer needs to search for evidence to prove you're right about what's not working. And you can stop seeking confirmation from others. Recently, my friend Ellen told me about a health issue she's had for many years. Several days each month, she's basically unable to work. She's an entrepreneur. It's pretty hard. She's really angry about it. Her words, I fight it. It shouldn't be this way. It's not fair. I invited her to practice acceptance, which she skeptically thought was interesting. She went home and something big shifted for her. She accepted where she was. She immediately created a new plan to get more done in less time. It happens to be one of her superpowers for her clients. Taking days off so she was not just powering through and making her condition worse. She felt a sense of relief and excitement. Here's what's happening for us. We have expectations. They don't turn out. We feel disappointment. We make up a story about it. We experience our emotions and we swirl in them and we get stuck. The antidote, explore acceptance. Attachment, say a project changed and it's not your choice. Attachment says it has to happen the planned way and it's not okay that it didn't. Acceptance says this is what happened. I don't like it. Now what? What's next? Attachment is not wrong, it's human. And what we can do is notice when we're attached. Sometimes it sucks, right? It's not at all what you want. You own it. Say whatever your version is of it sucks. I like that. You have a choice, though, to stay in that it sucks energy or accept current reality and explore what you can do and tap into your personal agency, where we get to acknowledge we can act, respond, and shape our own experiences. When we focus on what we can control rather than on what we cannot, we empower ourselves. Here's a quick tool that I use, again, something in my book called the three A's: acknowledge, assess, and adapt. And that leads to acceptance. The three A's help you reduce or eliminate drama. Acknowledge is asking, what happened? What am I feeling? What story am I telling myself? Can you name it without rushing past it? So I'm disappointed and this didn't happen. I don't like it. I'm angry. I really wanted that. This feeling our feelings and being able to move on is part of resilience. The next is what's true. Make an assessment. The decision was made. The project changed. They haven't responded. I didn't get the role. We didn't get the funding. There's an ongoing list, right? I um, can I take the moment to think about, can I change what's happening? Can I change the direction now? Go for it. But do it with acknowledging whatever the current reality is. These stakeholders are not happy. I don't have to convince them to be happy. I have to accept they're not happy. And they didn't do their part, but litigating that's not necessarily going to change things. Acceptance doesn't mean that I like it. It means I can stop spending energy fighting the fact that it's happening. And then adapt. What matters most now? What can I influence? What's possible? What conversations do I need to have? And what information is this giving me that I didn't consider before? Acceptance doesn't answer every question, but it creates space where better questions become possible. Acknowledge, assess, adapt. That's how we widen our capacity and reopen possibility. You might be remembering a well known recognition of acceptance, the Serenity Prayer. Alice was an assistant VP at her company. For 5 years, she wanted and felt she was really ready for a promotion. She said she would leave if she didn't get it. She was pretty committed to that action. She didn't get the promotion, but she did get a lot of positive feedback, and she reassessed whether she wanted to leave. She revisited what was important to her, made requests for more staff support, and changed her priorities. The key point: accepting the outcome just created room to see more options. And ultimately, what she said was that acceptance felt liberating. It's amazing, actually. Liberating is the word that people use most often about acceptance. And it's not that I've shared that word with them, it just comes out. She could be committed to be there now and be open to change or stop at any time. Being unattached became an integral part of her life. And Alice demonstrated acceptance and its best friend, be unattached to the outcome, which involves acceptance. There's three basic elements to being unattached. Commit. You could be all in or not. At 100%, you're all in and going for it. But you could be 50% or 80% or 90% and still just commit to whatever effort you want to make. Flexibility is a component of being unattached. Be flexible about what the outcome is. Can you care deeply but hold lightly? And then acceptance. What is now what? Accept reality and create change. The more capacity we have, the more challenges we can hold at the same time. So, to clarify, attachment is expecting a particular result and staying triggered when it doesn't happen. We stay in that, I call it the swirl. Being unattached does not mean being passive, indifferent, less ambitious, unwilling to work hard. It means being fully committed to your effort without demanding that life unfold exactly according to your plan. Here's one of my stories about being all in and unattached. In 2019, I was part of an inaugural coaching program called Optimize, now Heroic, with Brian Johnson. It's an 8-month course, and it concluded with a Spartan race. That's a 5K race with 20 obstacles. Initially, my resistance was very loud. I was clear, unequivocal, no. The experience felt way bigger than what I thought was possible. I'm not a runner. I'm not athletic. At the time, I was a 61-year-old, closer to wimp than not. And though I had climbed and jumped off a 35-foot pole the year before, I wasn't interested. I told my son about this program while we was driving to school. He was 16 at the time, and I actually he was 15 at the time. I was telling him about this event, and Isaac said, "I'll do it with you." And I'm like, "Oh my gosh, he was not a runner. It was completely unexpected." Once I said yes, I moved from being from a no to being all in. Not because I knew I could handle every obstacle perfectly. I absolutely could not. But because I was committed to taking the next step and the next step. Here we are at the beginning of the race. The reality, it wasn't a race for me against anyone, and it was freaking hard. This is Isaac, who is about 6 feet tall. After we had our second obstacle, which was walking through a very cold lake for 15 minutes. And you could see the water line where he is. The water came just under my neck. The obstacles were crazy. I had moments of fear, fatigue, complaining, definitely wanting to quit. Used OMMS, obstacles make me stronger. But I had flexibility within commitment. I had options. I could ask for help from strangers, and I did. I could slow down, change my approach, skip an obstacle. Okay, several obstacles, and keep going. Full commitment did not require, all in, did not require rigid control. 3 hours later, near the end, that's me up there having pretty wet, coming up a hill. Now I have to go down this hill and actually this obstacle I didn't want to do. You're supposed to dunk under this inflatable wall into the muddy water to get to the other side. But I did want to push beyond what I thought I could. And I came out, this wet rat, some nice guy helped me get up. The takeaway, the goal was not to guarantee a particular experience. It was to bring my full self to what was in front of me. Being all in did not mean I was certain that I could do every obstacle. I couldn't. But it meant I was willing to meet the next obstacle and the next one. And ideally be able to run across the finish line. That's Isaac in the striped pants and take a muddy photo, a muddy faced photo. Commitment gave me energy, flexibility kept me moving. All in is giving everything you have. I could be fully committed to the effort without controlling how every moment unfolded. Being unattached means not demanding a particular result has to happen one way and not staying disappointed or necessarily stopping if it doesn't happen. One of the best indicators that we have that we are attached to something being different is to notice when we or others are complaining. But complaints don't have to be barriers, they can be bridges. I did not want to climb the next hill, and I was complaining, especially when I thought I was done with hills. Alice, the vice president, was complaining about the amount of work she was expected to do and thought she should have been promoted. Ellen was angry that she was incapacitated each month. Steve was pissed off about the meeting derailment. A complaint often contains useful information, but staying in complaint mode tends to keep us from our agency, and it's draining. This QR code here, you can use it to download the guide and also have it at the end. But this guide, Shift from Complaint to Action, will help you practice a shift in real time, accept current reality, tap into your personal agency, and increase your capacity. So here's the question to think about. Are you ready to expand your capacity? You already know that you cannot always control what happens. I hope that these practices piqued your interest to explore how you can expand your capacity to respond so you can meet whatever comes next. In 2024 and early 25, three of my clients, three, learned that they had cancer. Each of them talked about how this practice of being all in, do whatever they can to address it, and simultaneously be practicing acceptance and being unattached to the outcome made a big difference for them on their journey. All three were doing great with treatment. Then at the end of last year, treatment was not working for one of them. She felt at peace and she accepted she was doing what she could to be with her family and her work family until the end came in March. Being unattached did not mean she didn't care deeply about the outcome. It meant she could meet each day, each decision, and the uncertainty with intention and presence. These practices, acceptance and being unattached, are bigger than work. They're not just leadership practices, they're life practices. Remember to notice when you're attached. Be all in with your effort when it makes sense. Hold lightly what is beyond your control and practice being unattached. Small shifts, big impact. You have more options than you think you do. You can be, do, and hold more than you think you can. Thank you for going with me on this journey today. And uh, if you're interested in more, I invite you to get my book. It's on Amazon at reduced prices right now, $5.99 for the Kindle and $14.99 for the paperback. Um, be grateful if you do find it valuable to leave a review. It's the thing that for authors makes a difference so that more people can see the book. Please do connect with me on LinkedIn, and my website is there. And then if you'd like, download this guide, Shift from Complaint to Action. And I've got one last note. On July 10th, here, Deborah Goldstein, my dear friend, who's also here today, spoke about energy tanks. What I'm talking about complements that. If you haven't seen that presentation, please watch it. She invited us to be aware of five energy tanks: physical, emotional, mental, spiritual, and social energy tanks, and learn how to replenish them so that we can navigate in life and work. Increasing your leadership capacities is synergistic with energy tanks and related to how you're showing up as a leader, a partner, a parent, a friend. Thank you all. And I've not been able to keep up with the chat, so I don't know if there's questions in there or Christy, anything that
So, someone asked for clarification on energy tanks or energy tax. I think what Deborah talked about, Deborah Goldstein talked about
Tank,
was
tanks,
tanks. Yeah. And you know what?
tanks.
They do all of this does relate to each other. And you know what so when you talk about outcome and being unattached and increasing capacity, I haven't ever really thought about it that way before. And really I've kept them kind of mutually exclusive, capacity and being unattached. But combining it actually makes it explains things further. I don't know if anyone else had that narrow view that I did, but it's it's really interesting to understand that our capacity can increase. I don't know what other people how they're handling things. But I know when I get attached to an outcome, um, I'm all consumed with that. And
Yeah,
it derails me from productivity. And so now it makes more sense. So, I just try to do my mantras and meditate and try to stay unattached. But I didn't realize how much of my capacity was impacted.
very much so. It's so easy. And it's great that you say that. I think like if you take one thing away from what I've shared today is to just start noticing. Like that's it. And then that gives you the option to shift. So, and making those kinds of connections. Yeah. Yeah.
And so I think there's a comment in the chat. The energy tanks, it's recorded on our YouTube library, and Ira will put in the chat the YouTube library where Deborah Goldstein's talk is saved. So please listen to it. And Deborah's is going to be up there in the next few hours. And reach out. I did download your guide and it's very comprehensive. It's really, I think
Yeah.
it's very, very helpful and setting the intentions and you know, making sure we understand we have agency. That's for sure.
Yes. Cool.
So we have
Have
some time. Who has questions?
any other questions? Any other thoughts about how does this land for you?
I put one in the chat.
Okay.
Oh, can you comment more on how boundaries interact with capacity and acceptance?
Yeah.
Plus.
Yes. Yes. Um, so when we're boundaries are really critical for all of us to say, hey, I'm not going to work for that extra 10 hours on this project. I need to stop somewhere. At the same time, what I have found, and for myself and my clients, is if I can get really clear what's actually important now and where am I now, that I might see some different ways to do something. And I might be needing to commit to, hey, I do need to take some time at the moment to not work so that I can re-energize myself to get work done. If you're going to have boundaries with specific people, you want to be able to know, hey, I'm not engaging in that conversation with them. And being aware of what our own boundaries are is part of also accepting that not things may not happen the way I want them to. So if I set boundaries, then something else may not happen. So there's an interaction there. Yeah. Great.
Deborah, what comes to mind, so you talk a lot, and again, I'm piecing things together that are obvious that I just didn't realize. But you talked about pushing yourself and getting through it. And I wouldn't have associated that necessarily with being unattached to the outcome. But, and we know,
Yeah.
from hearing how the brain works that and there's an expert that talks about if you do things that you felt uncomfortable with, your amygdala grows just a bit, right? And so it increases your capacity by just, and your ability to deal with emotions by just doing those difficult things. So you, by doing that 5K through the mud and climbing hills and
Yeah.
whatever, I mean,
Yeah.
that was crazy. And what you said in your book in the introduction, it's climbing that pole. I mean,
Right.
wow. So you have increased your capacity. Um, and your ability to just, reinforce to yourself that it's not fatal.
It's not the end. Exactly.
Right.
I mean, kind of my progression, I was always good at being uncomfortable and pushing limits, but outside myself, like at work, I could push the boundaries and do a lot of things, but I was never as good in the physical domain for myself. And what I learned is when I did push myself in this other domain, in physical, that new things opened up. I mean, I probably would have not written a book had I not done some of these other things that expanded my capacity. I never wanted
Mm,
to write a book. It wasn't on my, I always want to do that list. And it just evolved and seeing some different options. But yeah, Christy, I really like how you said that. There is something about, that's this idea of being all in is, hey, I don't know how it's going to turn out. And it's okay. I don't have to go. I can go for the win, but I might not win, and I'm going to keep going. I mean, we've all seen elements of that if you watch any of the Olympics, how much intention and effort it takes, and you might miss by a nanosecond and to win, but you keep going, you keep going.
mhm.
So where do we bring that into our lives? Where do we bring that into our business world as leaders? How do we find that strength when we're just thinking it sucks? We want to complain, or our teams are. What do we do?
Yeah,
So,
especially with all that's going on in the economy and in business right now. So
yeah,
Jean asks, can you share some insights as to how to stay situationally aware? In concept, most of all, understanding, uh, however, practice is another ballgame. Um, so it's being
how to stay
situationally. Yeah.
situationally aware. I'll interpret that one way, and Jean or Jean, let me
Jean.
know, Jean. Um,
Jean, feel free to take yourself off mute and
Yeah, sure. Yeah, so
yeah,
so it's one of these things that it's like we all understand that we should walk around the block, right? But few, we might be scrolling on the phone longer than we need to and forget to walk around the block. So, what I'm trying to get to is that what is easy is hard to do, right? So how do we remind ourselves in real life, like, okay, I have no control over this. There's no more, I might not like it. The sooner I move on, the better, it might be. Because, conceptually, we understand a lot of things, but in practice, applying them, then that's really where the struggle starts. That's where I was.
yeah, yeah. So I think that you just said it. I mean, it's really a lot about what do we tell ourselves. So we're our really one of our own worst enemies. So we stop ourselves. It may look like it's out there, but it's really in here. So a lot of the work that I do is helping leaders recognize that it's not them, it's me. So, John, I think that that's situationally aware. That's part of just awareness and being curious. And then acceptance is seeing, okay, here is how I'm assessing it right now. What are my options? What can I do next? And you just practice it and start noticing, hopefully you leave here today and notice something that you just hadn't noticed before. It could be in your environment, it could be in a conversation that you have with somebody, it could be in a relationship that you're in, and just see if you can look at it differently than you have been. And sometimes that is part of what will just increase your situational awareness because now you're like, oh, maybe they're looking at it differently.
And it seems
Exactly.
like the trigger would be your feeling. If you're not feeling positive and uplifted, then that's got to be a signal that, you know, that triggers, hey, I've got to look at this differently. Because
Exactly. So
if we have those negative energetic feelings,
that's
it's
right.
not good.
Well, and there's this balance. So I'm always about kind of the paradox of, you have to hold the things that aren't working along with the things that you want. And that place where you are feeling, oh my gosh, I can't believe how complicated and complex this is, or this is so overwhelming, or there's too much uncertainty and too much ambiguity. And we feel that and we're upset, frustrated, angry, whatever that is. Those feelings are really triggers to say, hey, what am I potentially attached to here? What might I not be just accepting? And can I let it go without in endorsing whatever it is. Like accepting doesn't have to mean I think it's good what happened. It just means it is what happened. And that gives our brain the space to say, oh, you want some other ideas? Great. Here, think about this. It's phenomenal kind of thing that happens. I'll have conversations with the client and there will be, oh my gosh, a couple months ago, if I would have sat in that meeting, I would have just been in my head and angry and annoyed at everything that was being said. And now I'm like, wow, that is really interesting that those my colleagues are saying that or going to do this, and then they can do something else as opposed to get stuck. How does that make
And
sense to people?
yeah, I think also when you look at job seekers and interviewing and
Yeah,
either getting ghosted or declined, the
yeah,
rejection, all of those things, or not getting a response at
yeah,
all. And
yes,
those are some things that I'm hearing from people, and not everyone. There's a lot of positive momentum
yeah,
in the job search market, but it really is, it's difficult to get that rejection, and it feels like a personal attack, and it's not,
yeah,
but it does. And so this, being unattached
unattached.
on at the onset
Yes.
allows us to look at things different and kind of set ourselves up to not be so disappointed. So it is
And
building a muscle, right?
it's building a muscle, Christy. You said it so well. And I think particularly for those of you who are looking for a job, I, I feel for you, this is not an easy time in any way to be doing that. With the rise of AI and the way that people are not even being responsive anymore is kind of crazy. So we move away from that feeling that it's personal and get that it's not. It is personal in the sense that they didn't respond to you, but it's not about you. It's about kind of the other circumstances and
Right.
you're going to feel relief and liberated and then you kind of keep going. Now I know you do that and then we fall back. So this is like an iterative process. It's something that we can hold it for a while and then we're like, I don't want to do this anymore. That's okay. Then you just be in that and then you move on to the next thing. So
Mhm.
give yourself a little more compassion, a little more permission, a little more space to be where you are and keep going. That's the
That's a
key.
really good way to put it. And it put this, make this a tool in your toolbox, because,
Yes.
whenever we run into things, one tool might work one time and it won't work another time. But just, continue to build up that toolbox. And yeah,
Yeah.
this is wonderful. It's
Yeah.
certainly a way to think about so many things, especially so many um, boot camper. Well, I mean, look at baby
Yeah.
boomers who are not retiring, and
Yeah.
they're feeling like there's ageism. And however, all the reports are showing that there aren't enough people in the workforce for these leadership jobs. And
Yeah.
so it's kind of like, well, wait a minute. I'm hearing that they need people with leadership skills, right? And Bill is a perfect example. He feels, he knows that he can do it, but he's feeling like, hey, do they consider me? I'm not going to put words in your mouth, but are they thinking that I'm too old for the job? And
Right.
and that's very common. It's like anybody over, the age of 50, maybe 55, starts feeling that at some level. And
Yeah.
but these are all great. I love it. And your book is wonderful. Your tools are wonderful. This is certainly a recording that, many of us can look back on. And between the Deborah Goldstein's energy tanks, which I thought was a fabulous discussion as well. And
Yeah.
so we might have to have you
Great.
back at the same
Yeah.
time to
Yeah. We
have
work together, so we could do
yeah, no,
fun
that's
things.
wonderful.
Yeah.
So thank you all for joining
Thank
us.
you. Thank
Appreciate
you,
it. Thank you,
everyone.
Deborah, so, so much. And we're dark
Thank
next
you.
week, but then the following week, which happens to be my birthday, we're going to have a discussion on AI for small businesses and solopreneurs and all those people that want to be consultants. And so this is for you. And Cyrus had referred this person to us, and it's Manisha Bardia, and he's an AI expert. So we all know that we want to learn more about AI. So hopefully we'll see you there. Thank you all. Thank you all.
Thank you.
Enjoy, stay cool, stay safe.
Thank you.
Bye.
Yes. Bye.
Bye, everybody.